Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, it is morning today. So usually we record at night, but not today.
So instead of a beer or a seltzer or wine, we got coffee.
Woo! Jamie's coming in clutch with that Starbs.
I love Dutch Bros, but Starbucks will do.
Yeah. So let's say our orders real quick, just so everyone knows what we get. It's very important.
I get mine for Starbucks, I have like 2 drinks that I get.
Oh, okay. You just switch off.
Yeah, with Dutch Bros, there's like 6 drinks.
Yeah, I do that too at Dutch Bros.
If you don't know what Dutch Bros is, it's an amazing.
Oh, you're missing
coffee.
out.
Yes, it's only on the West Coast.
Yeah, so go somewhere that has it because it's bomb, diggity bomb. What'd you get for your coffee today?
I got a venti ice non-fat caramel macchiato.
Nice.
Yes. Tell us your complicated order.
Yours sounded more complicated than mine.
Mine is just long words.
So I just got a venti iced coffee. I like my coffee black, but I like a little bit of, sometimes I add a little bit of syrup, stir it in there. I hate cream. And I don't add extra sugar. So I just got the venti iced coffee, 3 pumps of vanilla. And then they always say, do you want the classic syrup? So, and I say yes. But sometimes they don't ask. And then without the classic syrup, it tastes like dirt. So
it looks like soda.
Yeah, it looks like a Coke.
It does.
Oh, man. Classic. Anyway, so we're drinking coffee. We're here to talk about Nappy Boy. This is part 3.
It is going to be 4 parts because there is so much to this man. And there's even some that I left out just because there's a lot to him. And I highly encourage all of you to do some research on him because a lot of the battles I kind of want to do in the future too, so that's why I didn't go into high depth of them. Like, I would love to do just a whole in-depth episode of Waterloo, which is going to be in part 4. Yeah, that's as soon as when I was writing about it, I was like, I love Alba.
Oh, me too. By the way, guys, when we do part 1, part 2, all of that, make sure you listen to part 1 first, because every time we've done a part 2 has more downloads than part 1.
Really?
Which doesn't make any sense to me. So, so make sure you guys listen to part 1 and then listen to part 2.
Watch more people watch part 3.
I know, right? Yeah, I noticed that. I checked it yesterday and I was like, really? But anyway, this is part 3. And, I love that you guys are very into it. This has been one of our highest episodes, so It seems like people are very interested in Nappy Boy. He's I don't even remember where we stopped in part 2.
So we stopped where he had just become emperor of France.
Yeah, we stopped at the good part.
So finally, he decided, he was like, screw the consul. I'm tired of having these 2 other people, like, also be in charge. He's like, I'm just going to be an emperor. Technically, like, I'm a king, but no, I'm an emperor.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference.
For sure.
So, but yeah, so this week's episode I don't think it's going to be as long as next week's. The finale is going to be pretty long because I thought in my book, I didn't bring my book this week. Shoot. Look back on, same book as part 2. If you don't remember, it's like Napoleon's Wars. Check back on last week's episode because I had like the whole like author and stuff.
You read the whole
labeled.
book?
I skimmed it.
Was there anything about the bunny?
No, I forgot to look it up. I'm so sorry.
Dang it.
There was a lot to it, but
He's a complicated man.
He really is. How he honestly wasn't an emperor for very long. He didn't really like. This dude had more pull for military than he did, like, ruling.
Okay.
Because he didn't care about the people. He just cared about the wars.
Right.
So.
Oh, man. Well, let's get into part 3. I'm very excited.
Yes. So, now, all seemed good, and it was for a bit between, like, Russia. Nothing's ever good between France and Britain, but they were kind of just, like, at a standstill at this point. Mm-hmm. But with, like, Austria, because they had just defeated Austria, and then even with like Prussia, everything was kind of calm in the waters.
Yeah.
But, like, nothing like that lasts forever.
Okay.
Especially with Napoleon. Because with Napoleon, he could not keep the peace. He just kept wanting power because he was very greedy when it came to that. And it's just like, dude, you need to slow your roll. But whatever. Now, with, like, England and France, for the entire time they had, like, existed, they hated each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know how their relationship is now, but for the longest time, they just wanted to fight each other. But it was really hard because of, like, the split that they had between each other. Mm-hmm. But with, like, France seeing the expansion of England, they're just like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how it's a weird triangle between, so you have England, France, and Spain. Mm-hmm. They all hate each other. Yeah, they really do not like each other. But, like, England hated Spain, Spain hated England, France hated England.
It's like the opposite of a love triangle. A hate triangle.
Pretty much. But, yeah, and then France kind of was just, like, didn't mind Spain, but that would end eventually, as I'll get into in part 2, or this part, 4. I believe.
Oh, this is
part 3.
Oh, okay. Well, there's so many parts.
Oh, my God. Now, England noticed Napoleon and his hunger for power and victory, and, in a sense, worried of what he was capable of. Mm-hmm. Hell, look at his triumph in Italy. He completely just took over the Austrians in Italy and was just like, fuck you guys, go back to Vienna.
Yeah.
And he was wanting to explore more, get more power. He was touching waters that a lot of countries were afraid to, because they were just like, which sleeping giant are we going to piss off now?
Yeah.
And Russia and England are high on his list. But now it was terrifying of what more he could do, especially for Britain, because they were like, what if he comes for us next?
Ooh, they're all scared of him.
It's not more of scared. They're just like, we need to knock this guy down a peg.
Okay, so it's like more like, we just need a game plan.
Well, they're just pissed off. They're just like, are you kidding me? This guy keeps doing all this shit, and he has too much confidence. His ego, his head is massive.
Right.
He has so much air in it. Bruh got a big ego. It was now 1805, and Britain organized that a new coalition be constructed against France. This time with backup. Gotta get that backup.
For sure.
Now, to support this new coalition, Britain gathered Austria, Prussia, and Russia. There are other countries that are involved, but like Naples was involved. I believe Sweden was a little bit involved in this coalition, but they didn't play like a massive role into it. It's kind of just like entering at random points. Mm-hmm. But Austria, Prussia, and Russia and Britain are kind of like the main group in this coalition. Britain kind of was on the sidelines, kind of just watching and just like entering like with their ears, just kind of figuring out what to do. But definitely Russia and Austria were just like, let's get this guy over with.
Yeah.
So now with this new coalition beginning, Britain knew that it was a matter of time before France tried to invade, and Napoleon actually wanted to. He was like, I am gaining so much territory and traction. All of these areas are getting bored. I'm tired of refighting them. Let's try something bigger.
Ooh, bigger is better.
Britain. But the problem that he had, though, with invading Britain is that they were kind of isolated in a sense of just like where they're located. Mm-hmm. Like they're far. And so France was like, they have a really good navy. Like Britain has a fantastic navy during this time. And so he was like, I can't just invade them through the water. And you can't really get through to them through land.
Yeah.
So he's like, I have to figure out a better strategy on how to bring down Britain.
He's going to fly.
Planes didn't exist for like another 100 years.
With his wings.
Oh. What?
He's just like, I can fly.
Now, with Britain being a powerhouse, and they are trash truck.
I don't know if you'll actually hear it in the recording or if we just hear it. I think we just hear it.
Oh.
But maybe you heard the trash truck.
Who knows?
Trash truck. Not garbage truck. Trash truck.
But so with Britain is a big powerhouse during this time. They were trading all over the world. They were putting themselves in different places. Like they had the U.S., even though technically they weren't even part of the U.S. anymore.
Yeah.
America. But they had parts on the continent of Africa. They were trading with like India. They were trading all over the world. And France was like, interesting. Napoleon was like, this is interesting. So I can't get to them because their navy is so good. But what if I do something else?
Yeah.
He's like, I have a new idea. He needed to take on a different approach. Now, he needed to go after the one thing they had going for them right now, and that was their trade. France was just around the corner, and Britain started to get more involved. Russia was a large component to moving against France, as they also wanted the land mass that France was needing and wanting. So Russia was just like, what is France doing? Like, what is
France?
Yes, what is France? Because it was the Tsar, Alexander. There was still a Tsar at this time.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't communism yet.
That comes later.
Another 110 years. But Alexander was just like, what is he doing? This is not good. Like, he's taking up my land, even though Russia was already massive. But, like, if you think of how big Russia is, like, only a small percent of that is habitable. There's so much area, like, mass, that's just, you can't live there. It's just snow and Arctic.
Oof.
Yeah, so.
Cold.
It's in Russia. Now, Austria was also wanting to keep France out of Italy. So they were like, okay, we're going to help too because we want to take back Italy. Like, that's the one thing that we want. So they were just like, let's team up, let's high five it, and let's get going. Now, Sweden also decided to be a part of France and would likely take their place and wanted to be a step ahead of the damage that France could do. So technically they were kind of involved just to be like, so if France was stepping on their territory for some reason to get something, they're like, oh, we side with Russia, and then like, we'll fight you. We'll fight you. But it's just like, y'all aren't the Vikings that you used to be.
Yeah.
Now, the two countries that would take time to gain trust and kind of move against France were Prussia and Naples.
Okay.
So Prussia was hesitant for many reasons. When this third coalition started to shape, Prussia decided to sit back and see what was going to happen. They were not as big as like Russia and Britain, so in Austria, I guess. I guess Austria and Prussia are kind of like, in a sense, the same kind of like growth, but Russia is like a powerhouse too. But like Prussia was like, I don't want to go in like just like going straight in, like dive in, because I don't know how we're going to survive it.
Yeah.
They would much rather just kind of sit back first and see like how France and Russia play it out with any involvement in Britain, and just kind of make the decision if they're going to go against them or side with them. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. They're like, they kind of just like shrug their shoulders. Like, I don't know.
They just stand there like,
They wanted to keep neutral in this fight that Britain, Russia, and France were having with one another. Now, Prussia kept neutral since the first coalition that happened, and did so as they witnessed the wars France has been in with Austria. They're like, and even with Britain and Egypt, Prussia was just like, that's intense. Because Austria, they got defeated pretty good in Italy, so they're just like, I don't know if I'm going to keep neutral. So Napoleon, he saw Prussia's neutrality as like a way as them saying, come on in. Like,
oh yeah,
you can do whatever you want. Where like, that's not the case. When you're neutral, like Switzerland, you don't do anything to that country, because they're just like, I'm not getting involved. Y'all fight it out and figure it out.
That'd be me as a country.
Yeah.
I'm too busy.
But like Napoleon, he was just like, oh, so you're weak? Okay, I'll go in.
Of course.
Because that's how he does it. Now, it was the same kind of for like Naples. They were just like, I don't know. And he's like, I'll take that as a yes. I'll come in.
Wow.
Now, Napoleon took these two places and took their hesitation to his advantage for the coalition. By the fourth coalition, this was going to be a different story. Mm-hmm. Now, Russia and Austria, they were looking for a fight. They were like, I am tired of how Napoleon is treating us and how he was just going at this thinking that he's the big guy. Like, he just became emperor. Like, how much trust does he have in his people? Like, he took the throne. He wasn't, like, born into it. So, someone dying?
Where is it coming from? Yeah, it's not getting closer.
It's kind of far. Well, their sirens are loud.
Yeah. If y'all heard a siren and you're driving, don't worry. It was on our podcast. It's not in your area.
It could be.
Yeah, just double check. But sorry, continue.
Now, in this case for the third coalition, this fight was not working in their favor for Russia and Austria. France was determined to come at them with a fight, and Napoleon was planning to win. He's like, I ain't backing down. Y'all looking for a fight? Let's fight. I'm ready. You ready? I'm ready. Now, Austria would join the group in August of 1805 and teamed up with Russia on how to go about challenging France. Napoleon, being a good strategist, was already planning on how to go about destroying Austria and Russia. He was just like, y'all think you know what you're doing? Like, bitch, please. I'm 10 steps ahead of you.
Of course.
Little did these two countries know that a major defeat was just around the corner. Now, Napoleon and what he called his Grande Armée, it's like a grande, but as Grande Armée, came out blazing. On October 14th of 1805, Napoleon and his men would be victorious in Elchingen and Ulm on October 20th. Napoleon could not stop until he made his point clear.
Of course not. We know him too well at this point.
Because that's what he does. He does not care about his people. He just wants to fight. Yeah. I don't know why because I'm analyzing him. And because of his childhood of being neglected so much by his family, and especially having all of those brothers and sisters, that he's always fighting to be the best.
Right. And because he had to do that in order to earn attention.
Exactly. And to be the best in his country or for his country is to be at the top, which in this case is the leader, even though he is not a good leader when it comes to politics. When it comes to military strategy and everything, he's fantastic. Still an asshole because he wants to do it his way. Yeah. But he's good at it. He should have stayed as like the highest ranking official in the military. Like, I think he would have done a lot happier and his life wouldn't have ended up the way that it did if he kept in the military and not involved with politics. Yeah. In that sense. Because when it came to that, people were just like, what the hell are you actually doing for this? Like, he came up with those codes of laws in a sense of like, oh, well, you can get divorced, but like it has to be like a certain reason why. Like, he had all of these that helped develop other laws in countries. But when it actually came to like helping people starve and stuff like that, like they got rid of the feudal system. But it's like he would leave immediately after a bunch of important things. Like, as soon as like someone would be like, oh, there's tension going on in Paris, he'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go check it out. And then literally 2 days later he would leave. He wouldn't stick around. He couldn't sit still, and that was his problem. Yeah. So when it comes to battle, though, like he's pretty good strategist.
Yeah, I guess that's a good skill to have, in battle. Yeah, can't sit still.
But it's just like you're also an emperor for your country. Like, you can't go to every single battle, and he felt the need that he had to.
Yeah, he seems like he has to like make up for a lot of like who he is. Yeah. And he's trying to like impress everyone and like trying to prove himself. Exactly. And it just kind of comes off like narcissist-ish.
100%. Like, this guy, he wanted his glory. He wanted that fame. He wanted that attention. Yeah. And he got it. Right. And so that
and he knew how to get it.
Exactly. He really did. He really did. For this war Napoleon wanted, he had many advantages. For one, he had experienced generals on his side and many soldiers who were confident on how they would defeat the others. So having a good army is one of the most important things when it comes to military, because if you have a very not confident, kind of just like not believing in your generals or your higher officials, then your military is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that they're going to have a strong bond and want to fight or believe in what they're fighting for if they don't have that strong bond in leadership.
Right, because you wouldn't trust them anyway.
Exactly. And that's a thing that Napoleon had going for him. Like, he didn't inspire in a sense of just like give the best speeches, but like he would talk to them one-on-one and just kind of be like, thank you for what you're doing. Like, this is what we're going to do. Like, let's get these people. Let's defeat for France. Like, let's do this for France.
Yeah.
But it's like, you care for your soldiers, but when it comes to like everyday people, you're like, whatever. So it's like this guy, he's not the best, but like for a military general, not bad.
Right.
So Napoleon would go to the fields, and also, as I would say, he would speak with soldiers words of encouragement. Now, this was not in a big group because as we know, he does not do well in big groups, as last week when he was trying to talk to all of those Senate officials and his brother had to come in and save him.
He's like, oh.
So check back on if you don't remember episode 2 on that whole catastrophe.
Yeah, go listen to that.
We know the reason he went was that he couldn't help himself, and he wanted to tell the generals what to do and how to approach the battle. Like, he wanted to be the commander and just wanted to keep going. Moving towards Czech, where the big battle at Austerlitz would take place, the Grand Army would move through villages and, well, stop by. In these villages, the army would pillage the people by taking meats, firewood, anything they could get their hands on. This would also be a big contributor on other countries really being affected by this because they would just steal everything. Because of this village, people would begin to go hungry and fear if the army would come into the village. This was a very common tactic during this part of history. Another example of soldiers coming in and pillaging homes was during the Civil War here in the U.S. Because even it was both Union and Confederate soldiers. They would go into homes of people, completely just take whatever they wanted. And they would even end up just like hurting and killing some people if they didn't get what they wanted, especially if the Confederates were on the Union side, vice versa. They would just do that. And so there were so many people that were just like, I have to do something. Like, I can't have anything out. Now, a lot would hide what they could. So soldiers would barge in, couldn't take what they needed to survive. Because the military wasn't providing all of this stuff. And it wasn't always that they weren't getting provided, like, the certain things. It was just because they wanted to. Which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because people will take advantage of that, and the soldiers did for just the regular people. They would just come in and be like, what you got? And they're like, we don't have anything. He's like, I see that nice petri dish over there. I want it.
Damn. That would be a lot of pressure. Like, you gotta hide everything that you care about. Good luck.
Oh, and if you got caught, you would get beat for it.
Yeah.
They're like, why are you hiding from the soldiers? Like, why are you hiding this? Like, we're going to take over you. You need to provide this for us. And it's just like, yeah, it was really bad. Now, moving forward to November 14th, Napoleon and his army would arrive to Vienna, planning to push further into Austria. Now, Austria and Russia were moving closer. Now, as Napoleon was moving to Vienna, Austria was like, oh shit, we need to figure something out to get them over this way. Because they didn't want to lose Vienna. Like, Vienna was their big city. Yeah. Now, Russia and Austria would move their military to Austerlitz, planning to cut between France and Vienna's communication. They were trying all that they could to keep France out of Vienna. I don't think the Russians really cared, but because they were kind of in this pact, they kind of had to.
Yeah.
They were confident as they outnumbered Napoleon's army. Now, one thing, never underestimate Napoleon's army. He may have less soldiers, but he will still fight till the very end. That's just how he is. Planning to get Napoleon, they had not guarded the center of where Russia and Austria were trying to cut France's communication, and Napoleon used this as an advantage. Do not underestimate Napoleon's army.
Again.
Yes. Moving to the center of Austerlitz, the Grand Army would split the Russia and Austria military. So as like France was coming in, like Russia and Austria were like on the outsides, and they're like, they didn't put anyone in the center. Let's just go through the center. And so they literally split them apart so they couldn't communicate with one another. So it's like,
wow,
you didn't think about that? Like, gosh, the split of the army left Russia and Austria disordered on how they attacked France. And France used this to also another set of like their advantage. They're like, okay, they can't communicate with one another, so they're just going to go with what they can.
Yeah.
Though France's soldiers were well below that of Russia and Austria, their strategy would to lead them to victory. 8,000 French soldiers would lose their lives to this battle, but 25,000 of Austrian and Russian would lose theirs. That's a huge...
Wow.
Yeah. It was a loss that Russia and Austria did not see coming. They were like, what just happened?
Can't recover from that either.
Yeah, but it's so sad because they just kept putting bodies into it. They're just like, 16 years old, you're in the military.
Wow.
It's like they didn't care at that point. They just needed the bodies for it. So it was, they didn't have like 1 million soldiers or like 2 million soldiers, but they had like 30,000, 40,000. At one point, like one of them had like 400,000. Like, it's like, how do you keep that population going?
Honestly. Jeez.
But it was because of this battle at Austerlitz that the Third Coalition would come to an end. On December 26th, the Austrians in defeat would sign the Treaty of Pressburg. In this treaty, Austria would cede Venetia, Dalmatia, and give Istria to Italy, because Italy was a part of France now. Vorarlberg, Tyrol, and Trentino to Bavaria, which I believe Napoleon also had ties with. Napoleon in the treaty also made him king of Italy and Bavaria. So all of that was his now.
Dang.
Lastly, they had to pay 4 million francs to France. So it was like you also had to give up all this territory, but now you're also paying him all this money. So that was a big defeat that Austria was just like, why did we do this? And that's why Prussia was like, no, thank you.
Oops.
After this great progress in his goal to start taking over areas in Europe and further on, Napoleon got another idea.
Oh no, of course he did.
Yep. What if he put his family members on the thrones of places he conquered to secure their devotion?
Okay.
Little by little, Napoleon did that.
I mean, okay. I get it.
Gotta keep it in the line.
Yeah, you gotta
keep it in the family.
He's so smart, and it makes me so mad. You know what I mean? Like, oh, God.
I know.
He's smart for the wrong reasons.
He knew how to play the system.
Yeah.
In 1805, Napoleon would have his stepson, Eugene de Beauharnais, in Viceroy in Italy. So he was a leader in Italy. Made his brothers Louis and Joseph kings in Holland and Naples in 1806. In 1807, his brother Jerome would also become the king of Westphalia. And in 1808, his brother-in-law Murat would become king of Naples. So he was starting to put people on the throne. He was like, better connections, better ties, keep it in line.
Wow.
Now, Napoleon was happy to see all of his work paying off, but he was still upset about one thing. Britain. Britain, that whole war in Austerlitz and everything was just like, this is quite entertaining, but holy shit. Because they were just like, France is getting pissed. Like
Yeah.
they want to fight. And someday it's going to be here, but like France's navy just was not great compared to Britain. So Napoleon, he was smart in that sense. He knew that he couldn't do that, so he was like, okay, let's start with Britain. Let's see what can we do to like tear them down from the inside and their trade. So he was like, okay, let's start with this trade. Knowing that Britain was still trading and creating industries that was making their country rich and powerful, Napoleon decided he needed to put his focus on that. It was almost impossible to attack them directly, so he decided to create a blockade for their trading. So if you don't know what a blockade is, it's pretty much just cutting them off. Like any ports that they would have, any ports that British ships would come in, they would cut them off.
Yeah, it's like blockade.
Exactly. And this would happen all over the areas of France's allies. So allies of France were actually hesitant of this, but feared that if they didn't oblige to France, that they would get the brunt of their force.
Oh, wow.
So they're just like, we don't really have a choice, because Britain's trading was a huge component for their economy, like it was for Russia. Like all these countries didn't like each other, but trading was so important that they got over that and did it. But France was like, no, cut them off or you deal with me. And so they're just like, I don't know, should we? This fear that if they didn't listen to France and their own economy would struggle from the money that Britain brought in. But they also fear that France would come in and take full control. So instead, their only solution would be to smuggle trades from Britain. So instead of just like the blockades, they would have to figure out how they could pretty much like trick the France's like soldiers who would keep tabs to think that these Britain ships weren't.
Oh, okay.
But like it was hard to do, because it did affect a lot of the economies all over the world.
Yeah.
That were trading with Britain, because they weren't getting those big exports, and they weren't getting any imports out to Britain either, or over the world really. France had it all on lockdown. Napoleon feared that something like this would happen, so he sent soldiers over to keep tabs on the blockades and making sure they enforced this decree. Now, because of this, that he was sending all these soldiers out to keep tabs on the ports and stuff, he had less soldiers that were part of the direct fights that were going on. So it's like he had to balance out, like, how many bodies did he want all over the place? How many did he want? But like, they didn't really have a problem with having less soldiers in the battlefield, because that's what happened.
Right. How many bodies do we want? We'll see.
Exactly. Now, while Napoleon was combining family members and fighting the economic war with Britain, this did not stop Napoleon from continuing his fight with Russia and Prussia. So Austria bowed down and was like, I'm out. I can't do this. Russia and Prussia were like, let's do this. It was July 1806 that Prussia and Russia decided that they would ally together to keep France out of their territories. Prussia had finally had enough of France and Napoleon's control, that he was taking over territories, especially getting real close to to theirs. Napoleon took this alliance between Russia and Prussia as a challenge. Russia, Prussia.
I know. Russia and Prussia. They're like two twin sisters.
I had family from Prussia when it still existed.
Cool.
I found that out.
I didn't know Prussia existed until like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest.
It is crazy. If you look at a map from like 200 years ago, how different all of the countries are.
Yeah.
Because they just all split up and kind of just gain independence from everything. And they kind of like kept together like what they have, except now with Russia trying to take Ukraine, it's just like, why? Soviet Union is not going to become a thing.
Yeah. Give up on your dreams.
Freaking Putin. My God.
What a guy.
This challenge he would succeed in. France would be victorious against Prussia at the Battle of Jena Osterstadt on October 14th, 1806, and against Russia at Friedland on June 14th, 1807. This put everyone at a loss on how powerful France's Grand Army really was. It was only July 8th, 1807 that Russia and Prussia were forced to sign the treaty at Tilsit. This treaty between Napoleon Bonaparte of France and Alexander I of Russia, the Tsar, and Frederick Williams of Prussia was explored on the peace between the countries and even alliance between France and Russia, which is weird, but it actually lasts quite a bit until it doesn't, of course.
That's how it works.
Exactly. This treaty joining their peace and alliance would become a big threat to Britain. With Russia and Prussia joining the Continental Blockade, this was becoming a big threat to Britain. To favor Napoleon as well to this victory, he made Prussia pay a significant amount and made Prussia reduce their military size.
Oh, wow.
He's like, I beat you guys. Follow my orders. And they're like, fine.
They're like, okay, daddy.
Now, with Prussia and Russia secured and slowly affecting Britain's economy with the blockade, Napoleon was ready to move on to another. He was like, okay, I got this in the bag. What am I going to do next? He's like, I'm kind of bored of this. What's next? And this time, his eye was on Spain. Spain and France during the time period we're in with Napoleon, so the 1800s, were always in an alliance. Spain also despised Britain, as we have seen before through other episodes.
Many times.
Yes, with like seen as previous episodes like Jamestown and Roanoke, even Cortez.
Right.
All over. So it was evident that Spain would be on the same side with France. But a conflict between the two would arise, unfortunately. Napoleon was going to Spain in the beginning to help Spain with invading Portugal, because Spain, who hated more than Britain, was their neighboring country, Portugal. They hated the Portuguese. It was a battle between the Americas, like the South Americas. Like, that's why Brazil speaks Portuguese. Portugal took it over. They're also the last country to have legal slavery. So, just for your information.
Cool.
Now, Napoleon was to invade Spain. He had bigger ideas with the Iberian Peninsula. While down there, Napoleon also decided to invade a Spanish-occupied territory. This pissed off, like, the king. He was like, "Brett, you were supposed to help us out. What are you doing?" Napoleon was like, "I take what I want. Just deal with it." And they're like,
Mind your
"No.
business.
Mind your business." Now, the King of Spain, Charles IV, who was a part of the Bourbon family at this time, was not happy about this. Now, Napoleon's trying to grow his family. Y'all should know the Habsburgs and the Bourbons are a big family throughout Europe. They reside everywhere, as we'll see later on. But the Bourbon family at this time was pretty big. Now, he was not happy. So Charles was not very happy about this, but it was no longer his worry because he made his son, King Ferdinand the Seventh, to deal with Napoleon. He was like, "There you go. You can deal with this. I'm just going to be here in the back. Like, Ferdinand, good job. Go ahead, have fun." Ferdinand's like, "Oh shit, I have to deal with this guy." It's like, man.
Not again.
Now, Napoleon did not really appreciate the monarchy and the dynasty continuation of Spain or the Bourbon family, really. And they wanted to keep the family lineage. So the Bourbons just wanted to keep going. And Napoleon was like, "Y'all need to split it with me." Napoleon was used to this power to remove the Bourbon family from the throne. So he was just like, "I will fight this, but I want to be in charge of Spain now." And they're like, "What the fuck are you doing, guy? Like, why?" But like, he was respected by so many people that like they really didn't know what to do. They were just like, now, okay." Napoleon thought of an idea. Instead of having the lineage continue to Ferdinand, he would just dethrone him and put his brother Joseph onto the throne. He was just like, whatever. He doesn't have to be a part of this. Wherever he was,
Oh
like in Holland. He's like, no, come on over to Spain. You can be the king now. And he literally put him on the throne.
Cool.
Yes. And he did this in April of 1808. Now, Joseph would become king, and his name would change to be Jose the First. Yeah. Because they changed their names as soon as you become king. Interesting.
It's like, instead of being Joseph, I'm going to take away the PH. I'm just Jose.
Yeah. Now, to make sure that Ferdinand and Charles would not get in their way, Napoleon would have the two imprisoned. So Napoleon just showed up, was like supposed to be there to help Spain invade Portugal, was like, nah, how about I take the throne, or my family takes the throne? And they're like, what? And he's like, no more alliances, peace out, bitches.
Get out of my way.
Which he cannot be in alliance with anybody who's not, like, he needs that securement of family.
Yeah.
And Spain didn't have that. And so he wanted to make sure they had that. But this only causes bigger problems. Like, it's so hard for him just to be in a good alliance. And I don't know why. But then again, like, he doesn't like people. He doesn't trust other people. So he trusts his family, though.
Yeah.
So it makes sense of why he would want his family on the throne. Because he would trust it more than just because it's not like his family is just going to completely do like a 180 on him and just completely change.
Right.
So I guess that makes sense, but I'm just like, dude, you're just making people pissed off at you. Now, this would last so with Joseph being on the throne, this would last until 1813. I'll kind of get into it when Spain finally has enough of Napoleon, but for right now, Joseph is in throne. Now, the officers of the Spanish held their allegiance to the throne, so when Joseph took the throne, they stood by his side. It was on May 2nd, 1808, that the people of Spain would conduct an uprising in Madrid. Many would be killed in this uprising and cause a separation of loyalty to the Spanish crown. People did not like Joseph on the throne. They're like, who is this French white guy? No. We want our Spanish king back.
He's like, my name is Jose. Good enough.
Now, France would respond with their troops on the 3rd of May and succeed in November at Somosierra. But this victory only got him so far. With Spain now rejecting their alliance with France, they then received some support from Britain on the help to stop the French. So Spain actually, like, the people who weren't devoted to, like, the crown were just like, Britain, help us out. And they were like, I don't know.
Do I have to?
Now, Spain now holding force against France was a staple of showing resistance and confidence on defeating the French troops. So the people were just like, we're not following France. Like, we're not going to do it. And so this kind of gave inspiration for the other countries to not be bullied by Napoleon.
Yeah.
And to giving up their country. So they're like, okay. Now, King Ferdinand VII would have Joseph yield the throne back to him in June 1813. And Spain would then gain back control and the Bourbon family would continue. During this fight for Spain, though, it would return back to France as Austrians would be coming back with full force. Now, this whole thing with Spain and whatnot would finally be the beginning of Napoleon's downfall. Yeah, so this is all I'm doing for part 3.
So part 4 is the downfall and like the end of his life.
Yes, and it's very complicated because there's a lot of up and downs and just all over the place. But I think this whole relationship with Spain, I think if he did what he was going to do, help Spain invade Portugal, I think he would have had higher success rates in keeping their alliance because Spain is very powerful. They're one of the oldest powers out there. So not having that alliance anymore is extremely dangerous because with Spain, they're really close to like all the ports and stuff. And so they could just be like, let Britain in, let their ports come in, like keep their economy going, and Russia was the same way. They're like, we cannot afford not trading with Britain or not doing this whole trading thing because it's not, or using this blockade because it's not working.
Yeah.
They're still smuggling stuff to Britain. Britain's like, hey, we need to knock this Napoleon down. We need to do something about him. And Spain is now on board. So France is getting more enemies than he is allies at this point.
I was going to say friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's what he does best. He doesn't, I don't think he truly wants allies.
Yeah.
He just wants to defeat and conquer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's his one thing. So that is part 3.
Well.
Yeah.
It's getting intense, guys. Stay tuned for part 4, which we're going to record right now.
Yeah. But yeah, watch out for part 4 because it's coming around the corner. It's going to be very interesting.
The end of Nappy Boy.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, this one is very long. I just kept typing, and I was looking at my book, and I was like, there's more.
Wow.
But I also got a lot of my information from Napoleon.org, and oh my god, they have everything about, from the battles to him to relationships.
He's got his own website. Iconic.
I mean, for him, like, people do their 100-page dissertations on him. Yeah. Or 200-page. Like,
seems like you can. There's a lot of details out there.
Yeah, exactly. And just with him, there's so much that he documented too, because it is the 1800s, that definitely there is a lot of information on him. So,
wow.
Thank you for joining us. Kylie, what did you learn today?
Oh, geography is very complicated.
Oh my god, it's all over the place. If you look at a map.
Yeah. Ugh. I kind of wish we had one here, and then we could just, like, when you talk, you can point.
I would honestly love to get maps from different, because I would love it for my office too, to put different maps from different time periods. Because if you look at maps, because in my classes in college, because I took a lot of antiquity classes, all of those borders were shaped differently. They all had different names. Like Persia was on there, and you just, like, Mesopotamia, like that whole area. There was all these different countries that no longer exist.
Yeah.
Or morphed into just one big, that, like, the borders were constantly changing, except in the last, since probably even the 90s.
It'd be cool to have, like, a map, like a bunch of maps that just kind of go in order.
Yeah. It's absolutely fascinating. That's my next collection. Maybe I'll do that because I've been trying to make national park puzzles on my sorry, I just got a weird text message. But
is it McDonald's order?
No, it's Motor Trend.
Oh.
But I could just hear everything.
I don't think they will, though.
But no, like, having all of, instead of doing national park puzzles, I'm like, maybe I should just put maps up.
That'd be cool. You could do both.
Yeah, in my little den area. You need to fix it.
Well, if you want to... Wait, you have to ask, where can you find us?
Where can you find us?
You can find us. So I'm going to be more active on the TikTok. I've come up with some ideas. So, like, I'm going to be more active there. So stay tuned. You could follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at History of the Podcast. And then if you have any ideas, requests, thoughts, comments, concerns, you could tell us how you feel about good old Nappy Boy at historyofthepodcast@gmail.com.
What is if you are aware of Napoleon Bonaparte and just, like, are fascinated by him, what was your probably most favorite battle to research? Or
probably
most
the
intriguing?
bunnies. Just kidding.
Wow.
All right. Okay.
We'll catch you next week.
Goodbye.